Hello, welcome to the fourth ever PulumiUP conference. My name is Joe Duffy, founder and CEO of Pulumi, and I'm super happy to spend the day with you today. I'd like to start by thanking our amazing open source community. We've seen tremendous growth in the past year, both in terms of adoption, but also contributions. We've exceeded 100 million downloads of Pulumi itself, over 20,000 stars on GitHub, and a lot of great contributions and pull requests from all of you out in the community. We've seen, even relative to the industry's leading infrastructure as code alternatives like Terraform and OpenTofu, that Pulumi's contribution rate has exceeded theirs by a wide margin. But first, I'd like to rewind the clock. Why did we start Pulumi to begin with? We're over 7 years on this journey, which is almost unbelievable. And we've grown a lot as an organization, as a company, as the product offering has evolved to meet the needs of those 3,000 customers. But what we started with Pulumi was the thesis that the modern cloud was too difficult. And in many ways, it still is today. Especially at the time when we founded Pulumi, the cloud was really treated as an afterthought, not as something that developers embraced in building rich distributed application architectures. The AI revolution has really changed how we think about this. Infrastructure teams were also toiling away with tools and domain-specific languages that really didn't solve the problem or scale with the needs of the business in the way that people needed. The results were often insecure by construction, and you add all of these together, and effectively teams were operating in silos with a lot of toil, a lot of friction, slowing everything down, not getting to market as quickly as folks wanted, and when they did, not truly tapping into the cloud in the ways that we all imagined. This led to frustration all around, also leads to frustration with leaders who know that their organization needs to move much quicker in such a competitive marketplace. And so we took a step back and reimagined the world in a cloud-first era. And it led to a few fundamental tenets. One, that all software is cloud software. We don't build desktop applications like we did in the 90s. And even if we do, they're largely touched by the cloud. Whether that's in a deep fundamental way, like with AI architectures that are fundamentally distributed, or even just that we're hosting our applications in the cloud, all software is touched by the cloud in one manner or another. And what that means is all developers are cloud developers. We're all building software that's going to run in the cloud. And the cloud offers amazing capabilities to us. And so that brings the cloud closer to our application architectures. And that's really exciting. The world of distributed computing really is here today. And that leads to the final point, which is that infrastructure goes from being something that's boring or an afterthought or a tax to something that truly enables innovation and modern innovative companies like our customers that I highlighted earlier to really disrupt and turn the cloud into a competitive advantage. And so that's where Pulumi Infrastructure as Code comes in. Pulumi Infrastructure as Code is our flagship open source technology that allows you to treat the cloud as a programmable thing and manage and provision resources using any language. And you can do this on any cloud. You can bring the richness of programming languages to all the belts and suspenders that we might be familiar with, infrastructure as code that provides reliability, repeatability, and security built in. It allows you to apply software engineering practices to your infrastructure. Now you can test your infrastructure configurations. You can refactor them. You can treat it as code and review it as code. You can also share and reuse best practices. You can encapsulate common patterns rather than copy and pasting, 7,000 lines of YAML all over the place and having to manage the resulting drift. You can really centralize on a set of templates and components that represent the industry's best practices, but also your own best practices as well. And when I say any language, any cloud, I mean it. We support any Node.js language, whether it's JavaScript or TypeScript, Python, Go, any .NET language like C#, Java, JVM languages, even YAML, and YAML-related technologies like Q for those simple cases where markup is just what the doctor ordered. And we support over 170 different cloud providers. That includes the obvious ones like AWS, Azure, Google Cloud, Oracle Cloud. It supports cloud-native technologies like Kubernetes and Helm. Even private cloud technologies like VMware, vSphere. And finally, SaaS providers. Many SaaS providers are providing infrastructure services these days that need to be managed very similarly to cloud infrastructure. Whether that's Cloudflare or MongoDB or Snowflake, Pulumi gives you one solution that works across the entire spectrum of all of these services, allowing you to compose them, integrate them, and really standardize on one workflow for infrastructure as code that doesn't hide what makes all of those cloud providers special. And this puts the cloud at your fingertips. Previous drudgery turns into productivity. And what do I mean by drudgery? Well, if you don't have an infrastructure as code solution, you're often manually pointing and clicking in your Cloud's console, which is not repeatable. When you have to go stand up that next environment, you have to go somehow replay everything that you had already done. Scripting is one level beyond that, and yet suffers from a lot of the same challenges, and also it can be unreliable. So a lot of folks may have adopted V1 infrastructure as code technologies that are markup-based or domain-specific language-based, but these two don't scale, and you often find simple concepts take hundreds or thousands of lines of difficult-to-understand text. With code, you get all the things we know and love about languages, and so you can see this example here. Instead of pages upon pages of manual steps, you've got a few beautiful lines of Python that is easily understandable, spins up an entire properly configured Elastic Kubernetes cluster inside of Amazon. And by the way, this makes the simple things simple, the hard things possible. It presents a very simple interface, but if you want to add some GPU node pools to it, that's perfectly possible. But the simple thing that most people want, at least when getting started, which is that a properly configured EKS cluster is simple to spin up, just works. In fact, Unity games sped up their time from code to cloud, the time it took to just check code into a production branch to when it's actually running live, by 5x by switching to Pulumi. And they found that a lot of that comes down to the productivity wins compared to Terraform's HashiCorp config language, compared to a regular programming language that is highly productive and helps you move a whole lot faster. And now to see Pulumi IAC in action, I'd like to welcome Luke Hoban, Pulumi's Chief Technology Officer, up on stage to give you all a demo. Welcome, Luke.
Great. Thanks, Joe. It's great to be here at PulumiUP. Let's dive in and get started with an overview of how we can use Pulumi to manage and deploy our cloud infrastructure. My organization, Upstarts, manages all of our cloud infrastructure with Pulumi. We can see that we have our infra project, which manages our core service infrastructure for AWS, EKS, and Kubernetes across both development and production environments. The project is defined using Python. So we can go over into our IDE and see what the code looks like. We see that we have a short program, just about 30 lines of code. This is just a normal Python project. We have our main.py file and our requirements.txt that describes our dependencies. We see that this is composed of a number of building blocks, which themselves define all of the intricate details of our infrastructure. There's an infra component, which defines our AWS infrastructure for VPCs, EKS, and other core infrastructure components, and a service deployment component, which wraps up how to deploy a Kubernetes deployment and service to serve our application itself. We've already got this deployed, but let's make a change to see what happens when we update our application. We'll make an intentional mistake here to show off the IDE experience. We got all the benefits of Python IDE productivity: type checking, completion lists, help text, and more. Pulumi benefits from all the tools available in the Python ecosystem to give you the best possible experience writing and authoring your infrastructure as code. This is an illegal value, so we'll just change it to say 2, and we'll run PulumiUP to deploy this. Because Pulumi is a desired state infrastructure as code tool, just like Azure Resource Manager, Cloudformation, or Terraform, we'll be able to see a preview of what will happen before we decide whether we're ready to deploy that change to production. We see that we get an update. We can see the details, and it's exactly the change we expected. So we go ahead and say yes to deploy this into our production environment. Pulumi supports not just deploying Kubernetes clusters, but also managing Kubernetes workloads as an alternative to things like Helm or Kubernetes YAML. We see rich status updates during the update, giving us feedback on what is happening within the cluster during our resource changes. We see that the application is updated. We can even click on the link to open up a page and see a nice corny cloud infrastructure joke. Our application needs an S3 compatible bucket, so let's go ahead and create one. We can see that we get GitHub Copilot suggestions. Because we're using just normal Python code, we get all the benefits of great IDE tools like GitHub Copilot. We can go ahead and make one addition to this to set the ACL. We'll go ahead and make a mistake and use the wrong name for this ACL. When we come down here and run PulumiUP, we see that although Python didn't identify there was a problem here, because it's just a string, Pulumi actually does understand that there's a problem and gives us an error. In addition to the error, we see that with the latest release of Pulumi, we actually get a link to go directly into Pulumi Copilot. When I click this link, I go directly into Copilot within Pulumi Cloud, and Copilot is automatically going to answer the question, why did this fail? Pulumi Cloud has all of the context of my infrastructure across all the different stacks, updates, and resources that I'm managing, and so it can use all that information to answer this question in the best way possible for my organization. I can even ask Copilot, how do I fix this? I get back a simple answer that gives me the code I need to copy paste back into my application to deploy this out to production. We've now seen how we can use Pulumi to manage AWS and Kubernetes. We can also manage hundreds of other cloud infrastructure providers across cloud, on-prem, and SaaS infrastructure resources. In the Pulumi registry, we see all the big cloud providers, including AWS, Azure, Google Cloud, and Kubernetes. We also see hundreds of additional providers across the wide spectrum of different infrastructure tools. Even then, there is still a long tail of additional providers that aren't yet available within the Pulumi registry, long-tail Terraform providers or internal providers that have been built within your own organization. We recently released a new ability to use any Terraform provider from Pulumi within just a few seconds. Let's see how that works. We can run a single command to add planet-scale Terraform provider. It just tells us to do a few things: add something to our requirements.txt, run Pulumi install, and grab this import, which we can put back into our code. Now we can just add some code to create our database from PulumiUP, and we'll see it actually go and deploy that database into PlanetScale. We see our database, we can click on it, and we can see that it's already initializing within PlanetScale. With any Terraform provider, we can now use any of the long tail of providers directly within Pulumi within just a few seconds. Our main program here was very simple, just about 30 lines of code, but it uses several complex components that are built by our shared services platform team. Let's look at how we build reusable components using Pulumi and Python. For example, the service deployment is a simple class defined in Python. It's simply a class that inherits from the Pulumi component resource base class. It defines some properties and defines an initializer that describes how to build up all the infrastructure that's part of this component. There's some somewhat complex logic to take the arguments and turn those into different patterns of resources depending on what parameters I pass in. And then it goes ahead and ultimately creates a Kubernetes deployment and a Kubernetes service to deploy into our cluster for this application. For complex logic like this, it's often useful to be able to debug your programs. To support that, we just released our first official Pulumi VS Code extension, which includes support for debugging Pulumi programs. We can come over into our debugger, choose between Pulumi Preview and PulumiUP, hit play, and we'll actually see that we'll hit a breakpoint within our application. There we go. We hit our breakpoint, and we can actually step through the execution of our infrastructure code. For the first time ever, we're providing developers with debugging support for infrastructure as code. Now finally, everything I've shown today has been about developing infrastructure code locally on my machine in my IDE. Once we're actually ready to deploy into production, we may want to drive our deployments of our infrastructure using CI/CD. The development environment that I was working on locally uses local development with the CLI, but the production environment uses Pulumi deployments, which is a managed service in Pulumi Cloud for deploying infrastructure changes every time I push to a branch. In this case, when I push to the main branch of my repo, we deployed the latest update to our production environment. We can see all the logs of what happened during this deployment, including the setup and ultimately the Pulumi update itself, which succeeded and printed out the URL in our production environment. Great. That was a quick tour of all of what we can do with Pulumi infrastructure as code. We've seen how Pulumi ISC offers the most robust set of software engineering tools for managing your cloud infrastructure. Using the best of Python or your favorite language, support for a wide range of cloud providers, great support for Kubernetes cluster and workload management, and much more. On top of all of that, we're bringing AI to bear on helping you author, debug, and gain insights into your infrastructure. Thanks. Back to Joe.
Thank you, Luke. Well, that was really exciting to see IAC in action. A lot of great stuff, a lot of new capabilities as well. And really that caps off a year of just constant innovation where we're always shipping new features. And we're excited to highlight a few specific ones at PulumiUP this year. But stay tuned, we've got a lot more coming. And in terms of what's new, everything Luke talked about, use any Terraform provider, VS Code extension for great debugging and editing, fixing errors directly from Copilot itself, best IAC for Kubernetes with rich, customizable await semantics. All this is available today. I want to talk a little bit about Pulumi Cloud. From day one, we've paired Pulumi's open source technology with Pulumi Cloud, which is a SaaS product that you can use or not. We have offline state backends if you want to manage state in an S3 bucket or in any other DIY scenario. But Pulumi Cloud is designed to be just really easy to use, secure, reliable, and to facilitate collaboration. And over time, as I'll talk about in this keynote, Pulumi Cloud is turning into a product suite for the enterprise. Speaking to the point of choice, Starburst has been a fantastic partner of ours for quite some time. They started their journey on Pulumi Cloud, like over 2/3 of the open source community do, became paying customers, used Pulumi at great scale to power their Galaxy product. At some point over the last 3 years, as many of us have, faced some budget pressure, and so decided to go it on their own with DIY backend and S3, and ultimately concluded that Pulumi Cloud gave them the best solution for the problems that they were facing. And in fact, we're able to save over 100 hours annually of engineering time by moving back to Pulumi Cloud. They also found that they just couldn't keep up with all of the great capabilities that Pulumi is shipping day in and day out in Pulumi Cloud. So we love hearing stories like that, but we love even more just helping Starburst be successful. And so I alluded to going beyond just infrastructure as code. Of course, infrastructure as code is in our veins. It's open source. It's what powers the entire platform. And yet over time, it's been clear that customers have asked us to solve other problems for them. And so very early on, we began our first forays into non-IAC technologies that are adjacent and integrate beautifully with IAC. The first being CrossGuard, which is policy as code. The second being deployments, which is a deployment workflow technology. And so let's talk about Pulumi CrossGuard first. Pulumi CrossGuard allows organizations to enforce the policies that are most important to them. That can be security, it can be compliance, PCI DSS, high trust, any number of things, cost controls, best practices like ensuring your resources are tagged, and so much more. Pulumi's policies code engine is very special though in that it doesn't just find problems, it fixes them. It gates deployments so that problems never make their way out into production. And it has a remediation technology built in, so it can not only flag violations, it can fix them for you. For example, instead of just telling you that your resources are untagged, it can go tag them for you. There are over 3,000 out-of-the-box checks available across AWS, Google Cloud, Kubernetes, Azure, and more. But it's fully customizable. So if you have policies specific to your organization, you can write them in Python, TypeScript, Rego, or other languages. Pulumi Deployments is a server-side deployment technology. Since day one, we've supported CI/CD integrations with GitHub Actions, GitLab pipelines, CircleCI, and others, so that you can automate your deployments rather than just running them at the command line. But what we often heard from customers was, there's a lot of CI/CD integration, it's hard to make sure it's secure, and by the way, security is very important in those pipelines because many of them have access to perform mutations in your most important cloud accounts. And so we built Pulumi Deployments to be a first-class deployment technology built into Pulumi Cloud. You can point us at your Git repo, and as you're creating pull requests or merging branches, we'll automatically do deployments for you. You can click to deploy if you want to do something on demand. You can schedule deployments if you have certain days or times of the week that you do or do not want to perform deployments. You can detect and remediate drift. If somebody provisions some infrastructure with IAC, but then has to go into the Cloud Console for some reason or another, it makes changes. Now your infrastructure as code definition and what's actually in the cloud are different. And that can cause problems. And so Pulumi Deployments can automatically reconcile those problems. The automation API allows you to build robust automations for sophisticated deployments. Maybe you have multiple stacks that need to be deployed in a specific order, or maybe you're doing a worldwide rollout where you're rolling out to one region first and then the next region next. And automation API allows you to also embed infrastructure as code deployment into larger pieces of software, like custom CLIs, custom products, and so on. And all of it is powered by a REST API that's fully customizable and flexible. So if you want to build your own workflow on top of Pulumi Deployments, it's all there for you. And I'm really excited that we're now solving the secrets management problem with Pulumi ESC. ESC stands for Environments, Secrets, and Configuration. And it's Pulumi's new product that allows you to manage your environments, make sure they're secure, and tame secrets and config sprawl. And why do we build ESC? Well, we heard very loudly and clearly from customers that security is too often an afterthought, and that ensuring your most sensitive information is encrypted at all times and stored safely and securely is difficult, whether that's cloud infrastructure or your cloud applications themselves. Cloud applications are very complex these days. They have to authenticate with many services. That could be the cloud providers, that could be Datadog, that could be Stripe, and there's a lot of sensitive information that needs to be managed. And it's very easy to make a mistake. We wanted security to be the default. Secret sprawl is also an issue where a lot of secrets management technologies today don't facilitate composition and reduction of copy and paste so that you have one central definition. Dynamic short-lived credentials are actually very difficult as well. So what we find is a lot of people still have static long-lived credentials, which if one of those leaks, exacerbates the blast radius that's possible if that secret gets in the hands of an attacker. And we built Pulumi ESC to solve all of these problems by default. With Pulumi ESC, everything hinges around the concept of an environment. ESC stands for Environments, Secrets, and Config. And what an environment is a named entity that contains a set of related secrets and configuration. This secrets and configuration can be defined using dynamic and static secrets. Those can be stored in Pulumi Cloud itself or backed by other secrets managers like AWS Secret Store or HashiCorp Vault. It can be consumed from applications and infrastructure. And environments can be organized into projects and hierarchies. They can be tagged and versioned, and they benefit from the entire security model of Pulumi Cloud itself, meaning that role-based access control and revocation just work. Any access is auditable, and just like Pulumi Cloud itself, you can use a fully managed version or self-host on your own. And to see Pulumi ESC in action, I'd like to invite Meagan Cojocar, lead product manager at Pulumi, up to give you a demo. Welcome, Meagan.
Thanks, Joe. Let's jump right in. We received a set of requirements from our security team. I'll show you how Pulumi ESC can help address each of these requirements. Now, the first one, no secrets in plain text. Earlier, Luke showed us he was deploying an application in Kubernetes that used ChatGPT to tell infrastructure jokes. I pulled down the code from this and just pasted in plain text, my API key. Now, obviously, you should not do this, though I'm sure we all have at some point. I'm doing this intentionally for demo purposes, and I will be deleting this key right after this. But I want to show you how Pulumi ESC makes secrets management so easy that you'll never do this again. So if I run this program, you'll see that it's generating a joke in the terminal. Now, I want to move this into an environment variable and then inject it using Pulumi ESC. Now, you could just store it locally with an environment variable, but that's cumbersome and also can be potentially insecure. So instead, we're going to use Pulumi ESC as our secrets manager. So the first step of that is to come into the Pulumi Cloud UI and create an environment. An environment, first I'm naming the project and then the name of the environment. An environment is a contained group of configuration and secrets values. And so I can leverage this in an application or in infrastructure as code. Now, I'm just going to quickly go into environment variables section, do open API key, and then paste it in and tell it it's a secret. Now that Pulumi ESC knows this is a secret, it will be encrypted from here on out, and I won't see this value again. So just like that, in a couple of clicks, I've gone from having something in plain text that is obviously not secure or ideal to having something that is secure. Now, if I come over and run this program, I'm going to use a command called ESC run and then specify my org name, my project, and my environment name. And what ESC run does is it allows you to run any command we want in the context of our environment. And so in this case, I want to run my Python command, and my environment variable will be injected at runtime. And so, boom, just like that, we have another joke in the terminal, the program's running, and that only took us around a minute. Now, you might want a more seamless integration with Pulumi ESC. You might actually want to access your secrets directly in code and manage the life cycle of an environment. So for that, we can use the Pulumi ESC SDK. Now, I'm going to paste in some code that I wrote earlier, which is the exact same program, except now we're importing the Pulumi ESC SDK. So we have to do a bit of setup for the SDK and give it some of our variables. But once we've done that, really all that you need to focus on is this line. We're just pulling from the exact same environment in the same way we did, but this allows us to not need to wrap the command in Pulumi ESC or use any other tool. We can just run the program as we would normally. Amazing. So just by switching over to using the SDK, we're doing it in code and we can run our program as normal. Now, you might be thinking, this is so great. This is making my life way easier. But I actually have my secrets somewhere else already, and I don't want to have to migrate them to Pulumi ESC. Well, one of the great things about Pulumi ESC is our open ecosystem. And so you can actually leverage existing secrets managers from inside Pulumi ESC. So now what we're going to do to demo this is pull this from AWS Secrets Manager. And the first step to doing that will be giving Pulumi access to my AWS account. And to do that, my first thought might be, all right, I need to go get an AWS access key and then export it into my terminal and store it locally. But spoiler alert, our next security requirement is we can't have any long-lived secrets, which means I need to do something dynamic. And one of the great things about Pulumi ESC is that environments are composable. And so I'm going to hop into the Pulumi ESC VS Code Explorer to show you what I mean by that. So what we've done already is create this Meagan environment. And then here we have our joke app. And as you can see, it's in ciphertext as it's been encrypted since it's a secrets value. Now, one of my colleagues has already created an environment called Dev Sandbox, which has AWS OIDC configuration set up. And what this does is it dynamically generates AWS credentials at runtime, and so they're just in time. They're created when I need them, and they're short-lived for this AWS account that I need access to. And so now, instead of creating this from scratch, I can actually just import this environment into my existing environment, making my life so much easier. And so all I have to do is 2 simple lines of code where I say imports dev default /dev sandbox. And just like that, I now have access to this AWS account, which is incredible. And so now we want to switch over using Pulumi ESC as the source of truth for this secret to AWS Secrets Manager. And so how I'm going to do that is by going secrets. And the Pulumi ESC VS Code extension gives me IntelliSense, so I can just easily see, okay, this is the syntax I need to set this up. And I know that I want my OpenAI API key. This is just my name for it. And my path is going to be PulumiUP demo API key. And so the last step, now that we have set up, well, first we need to save it, but now that we have set up our import, which gives us the AWS OIDC credentials, and we have now specified the location of the AWS secret that we want to pull from, all we have to do is update this one line of code to pull from AWS Secrets Manager instead of pulling from the environment variable. So now I'm going to paste in the 2 lines of code that will pull from the values secrets and get this from AWS Secrets Manager instead of from Pulumi ESC directly. And so now if we run that moment of truth, amazing. Just like that, with those small changes, we're pulling from an existing secrets manager into Pulumi ESC, which allows us to, spoiler alert again, keep existing secrets in AWS Secrets Manager and 1Password. And then the one we skipped over here from our security team is that we want to prevent copy and pasting and have a single source of truth. And so the great thing about leveraging this existing AWS OIDC configuration is that I didn't just copy this and paste it into my environment. Instead, I was able to just import it, which, like I said, is one of the great features of Pulumi ESC is this composability and it being hierarchical. And so as a result, I didn't have to copy and paste, was able to check that off in this case, and keep my existing secrets that are in AWS Secrets Manager. So my 5th requirement is to time box access to cloud environments. Now, as we were just looking at, this OIDC configuration has a duration on it. And so in our case, all of this is time boxed to just 1 hour. I could update this to 30 minutes. And what's great is the projects that are already using this and importing it will get updated, and the same as mine will. And so everything kind of flows downstream. Now, the last 2 requirements we're going to use the Pulumi Cloud UI for. So the first one being restrict access to cloud environments to only those people or services that require access. And so we can go down in the Pulumi Cloud UI to the team section, which is where we do our role-based access control. And a team is basically a container for permissions. It can group together members and environments. And so I can say only these people should have access to these environments and therefore the ability to read those secrets or use those secrets. And so in this team that I have here, my app team, me and Luke are in it, and I have already this dev sandbox, which is how I was able to use it in my environment. But I want to give Luke access to the joke environment, and I'll give him editor access in case he wants to update anything. And then now he can go and run the program as well using these secrets from AWS Secrets Manager. Now, the last requirement on our list is that we need to audit our secrets usage. It's important to our security team that they know when these values are being accessed. And Pulumi Cloud just makes that super simple out of the box in that I have all of these events for every time an environment is touched. When it's read, when it's opened, if it's updated, all of this you get out of the box in Pulumi Cloud as part of audit logs. Now, Another way that we can ensure that all of this is auditable is we have versioning on environments. And so you've kind of seen me go through all these changes where we added the dev sandbox and the AWS Secrets Manager, but I can jump back and see what the values were before. And so a couple great features of this is one, obviously auditability, but also I can pin versions. So I can say, all right, I only want version 2, since that's the version we're using now of Dev Sandbox. Now, we covered a lot today, but I really hope that you learned a lot about Pulumi ESC through all of this, and predominantly how it can meet a lot of your security team's requirements just with all of the functionality it has. I hope this demo has highlighted how Pulumi ESC is the best-in-class secrets manager for developers. Back to you, Joe.
Thank you so much, Meagan. That was super exciting. Love seeing ESC in action. I hope you're as excited as we are. And I'm pleased to announce that as of today, Pulumi ESC is generally available. And it's not just us that's excited about ESC, our customers are as well. You can see here Tetrate and MystenLabs have nothing but nice things to say about how it's simplified their credential management for accessing the cloud and giving them more confidence that the blast radius in the event of an accident has been minimized. So check out Pulumi ESC today. All right, we're going to switch gears a little bit. I'd like to return back to our core tenets of all software is cloud software, all developers are cloud developers, and that infrastructure enables innovation. About 2 years ago, we added a fourth, which is that AI is powering the next wave. And I'd like to talk for a moment about what we mean by that. First, about 2 years ago, we recognized that a new wave of innovative generative AI technologies were about to become unleashed. And the way we see AI powering the next wave leads to something we call the intelligent cloud. And this is two things. One, the cloud enables AI scale in a way that couldn't have been possible otherwise. When I hear AI, I think infinite data and infinite compute. And the only place I can get infinite data and infinite compute is in the cloud. Pulumi's unique approach to infrastructure as code scales to AI heights thanks to the use of general purpose languages and engineering software principles. At the same time, on the other hand, AI is really unlocking cloud capabilities in new and exciting ways. This began with GitHub Copilot, ChatGPT, where you can actually go and ask questions about managing the cloud, creating infrastructure as code. And we leaned into this very early on, creating our own Pulumi AI, which helps you generate your infrastructure as code. You describe to Pulumi AI any cloud architecture in natural language, and it generates the infrastructure as code for you in your chosen programming language. It's the easiest way to understand the entirety of the cloud and get up and running. And earlier this year, we launched a new AI-based Pulumi Copilot, which takes all of that just to the next level. With Copilot, you can ask it any question about your cloud, not just generating the infrastructure as code for you. You can ask it, do I have any security problems in my cloud infrastructure? What versions of Kubernetes am I currently running? What compliance issues might I have? Who was the most productive team member over the last week? And so on and so forth. We're really excited about Pulumi Copilot, and it just keeps getting better. And although a lot of what we've talked about has made great inroads towards understanding your cloud infrastructure, securing your cloud infrastructure, provisioning it, what we find when we talk with our customers is there's still a lot of chaos in the cloud. There's a lack of visibility, and there's still too much toil. Applications are increasingly complex. Making sense of millions of cloud resources is very difficult. Even having visibility into them and understanding what you have in the cloud is difficult. This can lead to complications when it comes to managing cost, managing security, reliability. Virtually everything about cloud management is made more difficult by a lack of visibility into what you've even got. And for the subset of resources you're provisioning with Pulumi IEC, you've got pretty good visibility already. But with Pulumi Insights, we're taking that to even the next level. Pulumi Insights applies intelligent cloud management to give you instant visibility and control over all of your cloud assets. It tames the chaos. It starts with an inventory of your cloud assets that allows you to search and analyze those assets. You can create dashboards over them. You can export the data so that you have some understanding of what you're actually running. You have AI-powered cloud management, especially with Copilot, that's powered by the Pulumi Supergraph that allows you to automate a lot of the management toil away. And it supports all of the cloud providers that Pulumi already supports, over 170 clouds, public, private, hybrid, SaaS providers, and everywhere in between. And to see Pulumi Insights in action, it's my pleasure to welcome Craig Symonds up to the stage to give you all a demo. Welcome, Craig.
Thanks, Joe. So last year, we launched Insights 1.0 with the new resources page that helps you find and manage the resources that in your infrastructure. And since then, we've heard some great feedback from customers about the tools and updates that they'd like to see. And I'm happy to be able to demo some of these improvements for you today. The first update is that we have a significantly enhanced resources page to provide an updated layout, as well as improvements for sorting and filtering directly from within the grid. We've also added the ability to group your resources by different columns so you can factor your infrastructure in different ways. And grouping your resources helps you gain insights into your infrastructure, sometimes allows you to learn things that may be different than what you expected. For example, having so many storage resources may be a surprise, so drilling in by module or stack might help you gain the insights needed. You can also use grouping to understand how resources are changing over time, along with any other grouping you might need to understand those changes. Here you can see we've made changes to a significant number of resources a couple of weeks ago, and we could drill in to find out what stack was causing those changes. This new resources experience now gives you a flexible set of tools to help you understand and manage your infrastructure to suit your needs. Pulumi CrossGuard and IAC provide a flexible platform to gain insights into how your infrastructure is configured and ensure that the future changes don't introduce vulnerabilities. With the new Policy Violations Explorer, you can now browse all of the policy violations across your organization with the ability to sort and filter and group the violations based on your project's needs. For example, you can group the violations by policy to understand if you have any repeat of a lot of the same types of issues or many distinct types of issues. You can also group by stack and other fields to understand where the majority of issues exist, and then be able to assign the remediation work appropriately. But knowing where the policy violations are is great, but being able to easily fix the issue is what counts. And the resource details page gives you the details necessary about the policy violation. It also shows you a new resource graph that gives you a visual map of the resource dependencies and allows you to drill into the related structure. This resource graph with the specific details about the resource gives you the context needed to fix the issue, and the next step then is to update the code for the resource. You can now select the go-to definition link to take you right to the code for the resource, helping you to quickly find and update your IAC code needed to fix the issue. So we've talked about the tools to drill into your infrastructure and gain the insights needed to move your project forward. But the last piece of the puzzle is giving you a comprehensive way to monitor the status and progress towards your goals. To do this, Pulumi Cloud will provide a customizable dashboard where you can create a single location for monitoring your infrastructure and progress over time. Here we have several reports based on the infrastructure projects in flight. And the first report shows the resource count by category to give you a high-level overview of your infrastructure. Another graph shows you the progress towards monitoring all your serverless applications to use the latest version of the Node.js runtime. Being able to create your own cards in the dashboard allows you to track the progress in the way that best suits your goals. So here, we're adding a new card to track the EC2 volume usage, since we're in the progress of right-sizing the volumes for each application. And as you can see now, we have more than twice as many high-end GP3 instances, but also some standard instances being used. With these new updates coming soon, we're providing you the tools you need to gain the insights that will help you manage and optimize your infrastructure. So back to you, Joe.
Great. That was awesome, Craig. But there's one last thing. What if all of that could work over any infrastructure, not just the infrastructure provisioned by Pulumi IAC? Terraform managed infrastructure, Cloudformation managed infrastructure, manually provisioned by pointing and clicking in the Cloud Console infrastructure. Is that possible? Craig, welcome back.
Well, I might just have a demo for that. So having tools for managing your IAC resources is great, but not everyone has their infrastructure under Pulumi IAC management yet. Enabling Pulumi to be a full asset and insight management product would require that it understands all of your cloud resources, not just the IAC resources. So let's use Account Discovery to do exactly that. Account Discovery leverages hundreds of open source Pulumi providers to find and read resources for virtually every platform you use. We're going to use the AWS provider to scan for resources that are not yet under IAC. Once we give Pulumi the necessary account configuration, it will use the workflow engine to start a scan that will then find and read all of the resources in the particular region. And as you can see, the scan is now finding resources in your infrastructure and dynamically adding them to your view. This means you can now use the full power of Pulumi Insights, including Copilot AI, to discover information about your entire infrastructure. For example, if you want to quickly find out if you have any S3 volumes that use the standard type, you can ask Copilot to figure this out for you, even for resources that are not managed by IAC. And Copilot quickly figures out the resource search needed to answer your question and returns the 2 resources that match your query. And of course, the dashboard also supports showing the status of discovered resources. For example, here we have a card that shows the IAC platform used to manage your resources, including the resources that are not yet managed at all. We've also extended the policy violations page to show new violations from the discovered resources. This allows you to use the policy engine and the insights tools to find issues with your infrastructure, regardless of whether the resources are managed by Pulumi, Terraform, or not managed at all. Like IAC managed resources we saw earlier, you can drill in to see the details on the resource, the context graph, and the policy violation details. The CrossGuard policies not only highlight insights about your resources, but can also suggest remediations. By selecting remediate, we can see the resources diff that Pulumi is suggesting to fix the issue. And if you agree with the changes, you can select update resource, and Pulumi would then use the necessary providers to write the changes back to your infrastructure. And this provides direct remediation for unmanaged resources that includes full auditing, so you can keep track of the changes. Directly modifying your infrastructure is a fast and effective way to fix problems. But to ensure future changes can be made without causing additional issues, we need to bring those resources into the Pulumi IAC platform. Finding the resources you want to import can be time-consuming, but Pulumi Cloud helps simplify this process. The CLI can now use the cloud-based resource search to get the IDs and types needed for the subset of resources you'd like to import. So you can use this command to tell Pulumi import to get all of the resources that have a standard volume and pass it to the standard CLI import command. And now you have the code needed to integrate these resources into your IAC platform and ensure future updates are robust and don't introduce new issues.
Pulumi Insights provides you the tools you need to manage your entire infrastructure and to find the insights around security, compliance, and efficiency, and to bring those resources into Pulumi IAC for best-of-breed infrastructure management. Back to you again, Joe.
Thank you, Craig. I will just say my mind was just blown. I think it's amazing. Insights 2.0 brings all of the innovation that Pulumi has been investing in over many years in cloud management, in cloud visualization, in AI over your cloud resources to any infrastructure provisioned by any infrastructure as code tool or even non-IAC tools. So I encourage you to sign up for the waitlist today if you're as excited about this as we are. As Craig mentioned, some of these things are rolling out today, many of them over the weeks to come. And stay tuned with the newsletter and our blog. We'll be shipping these things live as they become ready. And our customers are excited too. Kevin at A+E Networks leaned heavily into the AI revolution when it began. What he has found is that managing a lean DevOps team is tough, and AI can really automate a lot of the toil and menial tasks that don't add value, allowing us as engineers to focus on the problems that matter. So the theme of today has been that Pulumi has transitioned from being best-in-breed infrastructure as code technology in any programming language for any cloud to really being a comprehensive platform for everything you run in the cloud. Pulumi IAC helps you automate productively. Pulumi ESC helps you make things secure by default. Pulumi Insights applies AI to the domain of cloud management, giving you instant visibility and controls into everything. And of course, Pulumi CrossGuard applies policies, deployments, helps you automate the workflows, and Copilot gives you intelligence everywhere across the entirety of the product suite. Through Pulumi Cloud and the Pulumi platform, you're able to unite your entire team. Your developers will be empowered, your infrastructure teams will have the tools and techniques they need to scale to meet the demands of the organization around them. Your security team will be able to ensure that as your infrastructure team scales and as your developers are put in the driver's seat, that it's all done securely by default, not as an afterthought. And finally, to wrap things up, I'd love to hear from David at Tivity Health about their journey with Pulumi, where they approached the adoption of Pulumi not from just the lens of IAC, but from the entire platform. and how it managed to save 71% of their expense in the cloud, going from 9.3 million annually to 2.7, based on the visibility and controls that the Pulumi platform gave them.
Hello, everyone. My name is David Jambruno. I'm the VP of Engineering and DevOps at Tivity Health. At Tivity Health, roughly 2 years ago, we embarked on a fairly ambitious transformation going from data centers directly into cloud native. Inside of that, we had to build a set of operating principles, our partners, our plan, both technically and financial. One of the key partners was Pulumi, which was foundational to match up with our operating principle of if we can't automate it, we don't need it. And so to do it in 24 months, we had to do everything faster, better, cheaper. That really became fundamental to how we operate and how we approach the project. We are roughly 72% out of our data centers. We're about 18 months in. We are heavily automated. We automate for two real reasons. One is, from a DevOps perspective, it's to enable everyone to turn around, face forward. For product and engineering teams, let them go create product. We'll make everything, again, faster, better, cheaper in the background from a DevOps perspective. So Pulumi's been critical because literally everything is automated. The depth and breadth of the tool is amazing for us. It's one of those key things that we couldn't live without. And if you tried to take it away from us, we'd probably cry.
Well, that's absolutely incredible. Saving 71% of cloud expenses, thanks to the controls and visibility and power of the Pulumi platform, is just incredible. And just a testament to not just the quality of life improvement Pulumi can provide for developers and infrastructure teams on a daily basis, but also business leaders. So let's recap. Today, we've seen Pulumi's great momentum as a company, with 3,000 customers, nearly 200,000 community members, and still growing fast. We've seen the Pulumi origin story, which began with our open source flagship infrastructure as code technology, has been adopted at great scale by many of the world's most innovative companies, including Unity Games, who sped up time to market by 5x thanks to Pulumi. We've talked about how the cloud is powering the AI revolution and how AI promises to reimagine everything about the cloud. And finally, we've seen Pulumi's transition to a multi-product portfolio with Pulumi ESC, which is now GA, and Pulumi Insights 2.0, which brings Pulumi to entirely new places. And finally, I'd like to give a big thank you to our partners and supporters. Without you, PulumiUP wouldn't have been possible. I hope you enjoyed today's keynote and are as excited as we are about the new product announcements today. And the keynote was just the start. We've got a lot of great talks in store for you today across the Cloud and IAC track, Platform Engine DevOps, AI and ML. Each track features its own panel, which I'm super excited to watch. And we'll end with some cloud culture talks. Thank you for coming to PulumiUP, and especially to our customers. I look forward to seeing you in the community. Have fun today.
Hi, my name is Jan-Peter Eiten. I'm software development expert at the BMW Group. First, I want to thank Pulumi for this great award. It's an honor to be seen here. And as well, I want to thank you for all the support you're providing us on our daily work and on all the small issues we come across. Everything gets settled in a real good pace. And I value the strong partnership we've built over the past years. And I want to thank you for building these nice tools, which is really a pleasure to work with. Second, I want to thank BMW for being a great place to work and offering an opportunity to work on challenging projects like our software factory we are building right now. And so that's really nice working there. And third, I want to thank the whole team. So it's a pleasure to work with you guys, and it's amazing what we've achieved and would have been possible without you. And also our external partners, which are doing great jobs there and helping us out wherever they can. So I'm really curious to see what we will achieve in the future. And so let's see what we will build then. Thanks to you all. Bye.
Hello, my name is Justin Fitzhugh. I'm the Vice President of Engineering here at Snowflake. First, I'd like to thank Pulumi for the Cloud Engineering Leadership Award, which is a testament to the collective effort of the entire Snowflake team and the powerful tools we've had the privilege to use, particularly Pulumi. Thanks to Pulumi's flexibility and power, we've seen major efficiency and quality improvements, leveraging infrastructure as code methodologies in our production environment. One of the best parts of working with Pulumi is the freedom it gives us to use programming languages like Go, making infrastructure management feel like software development. Pulumi has truly revolutionized how we approach cloud engineering. Thank you again to Pulumi for being an incredible partner in innovation. We're excited about the new features announced and look forward to continuing to build a fantastic future together.
Hi, my name's Crystal, and I lead the partnership with Pulumi at AWS. Over the past year, it's become clear that developers love using Pulumi to manage AWS and other services that are part of their cloud stack using familiar programming languages. We've partnered with Pulumi on developer workshops to help end users accelerate their cloud projects and get new ideas into production faster. Thank you, Pulumi, for recognizing our go-to-market efforts to reach more developers and customers together. We can't wait to see the amazing things our joint customers deliver next year powered by Pulumi and AWS.
Thank you very much. We are very excited and honored to be receiving this award from Pulumi. At 1Password, we strongly believe that when it comes to security and convenience, you can have both. Putting people first has been at the forefront of what we do at 1Password. Not only just keeping developers secure from their first line of code, but also making them more productive along the way. We are privileged to have the opportunity to partner with Pulumi in adding support for 1Password within Pulumi environments, secrets, and configuration. We know this integration has been a top request from our shared community. Pulumi ESC's addition of the 1Password provider empowers development teams to seamlessly incorporate secrets and configurations stored within 1Password into their workflows.
We're honored to accept this award and even more excited about what we've accomplished together. Earlier this year, we were delighted when Pulumi approached us about building an integration with 1Password. The timing was perfect as we were just starting to work on our new set of 1Password SDKs for Python, JavaScript, and Go. Pulumi shares our commitment to streamlining and securing development workflows and our 1Password users themselves. This project has truly been a collaborative effort, marking one of the first co-built integrations here at 1Password. The team at Pulumi agreed to be an early partner and beta tester while we built the 1Password SDKs and co-built their new ESC integration using the 1Password Golang SDK. From the start, our teams worked closely to sequence our delivery to meet Pulumi's product development goals and ensure alignment both technically and strategically. This collaboration extended beyond development as we coordinated with Pulumi's teams to meet milestones and synchronize our launch efforts. Together, we delivered a solution that secures cloud environments by leveraging 1Password as the single source of truth for secrets, ensuring consistent availability across all environments. The integration we co-built showcases the potential of combining robust tools and strong partnerships, and we can't wait to see how developers leverage both of our new solutions, Pulumi ESC and the 1Password SDKs, to innovate in the future. Thank you, Pulumi, for being a great partner, and we look forward to what's next.
Hey everybody, I'm Jemiah Sayas, the Senior Director of Developer Relations here at New Relic, and we're grateful for this recognition. Over the past 2 years, we've enjoyed partnering with Pulumi to provide developers with the needed resources to understand how to adopt infrastructure and observability as code. Whether it's working together on technical content, workshops, or supporting events, our collaboration with Pulumi has been a winning part of our strategy. At New Relic, we know that intelligent observability is crucial to providing high-performing and secure digital experiences. Being able to operate at scale is needed for observability maturity, and with our partnership with Pulumi, we're helping organizations operate at scale by giving them visibility across complex infrastructure and distributed applications. The joint solutions enables team to combine Pulumi's infrastructure as code capabilities with New Relic's observability insights into applications and infrastructure performance. This awards motivates us to keep pushing further with our DevRel and field marketing efforts. We're excited about the future of our partnership and continued value we can bring to the developer community. So thank you again for the recognition. We look forward to building on our success and reaching new heights together in the upcoming years.
Hi, I'm Zach, a staff developer advocate at Pinecone, and I'm very happy to accept the PulumiUP Partner Award for our work on the AWS reference architecture. We built the reference architecture to demonstrate best practices in performing semantic search at scale using vector database. Having spent years building systems in pure Terraform, I can say that my first project with Pulumi was an outstanding experience. Using the programming languages that you already know, such as TypeScript or Golang, you can quickly iterate in building distributed systems. Pulumi has top-notch integration with Docker, so even though our reference architecture comprised 3 separate microservices, building and updating those images was effortless because Pulumi handled everything under the hood for me. We'd like to extend a huge thank you to Pulumi and their excellent team for all their support and guidance along the way, and we look forward to working with you again more in the future. Thanks so much.